focusing on social media is just too much.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Guiding them through it. You're trying to act like an entitled, spoiled brat.
You're currently listening to Her Call, hosted by full-time writer and entrepreneur Jordan Snyder, to bring you insight on how to be successful and empower you to be the best version of yourself, no matter what other people say. Because on this side of the internet, it's always her call. Stunned is really the word that I have to describe myself right now, because I just realized you all are listening to the first official episode of Her Call, and I'm just shook. I'm shook, really. I'm shooketh. I am shook to my core because I have been working so hard this past month on getting podcast episodes recorded, doing the behind the scenes work, like everything that goes into creating a podcast. Like, I've been doing it all plus more. And so for now, for me to finally have it out so you guys can start enjoying my episodes just as much as I enjoy them, I'm just stunned. I'm beyond excited. And I have been interviewing people, I feel like all month. Like, I feel like I've just been having conversations with people all month about podcasting, and I'm gonna have I've recorded with some amazing guests. Oh my gosh, I have everything you could imagine, from relationship experts to coaching experts to health gurus and marketing people, but just like literally everyone, and I'm so excited. And yeah, we're here. You are officially listening to the first episode of Her Call. I love hearing those words. And today, we are talking about some interesting things. Light topics, really. Just light topics, but basically it'll be about success and failure. So the first thing I'm going to talk about today is, indeed, failure. And I know it's talked about a lot in anywhere, really. We'll talk about success and failure, but I feel like if you don't necessarily get the tips out of this, you'll at least hear my story and be able to take that as inspiration. Because I was just reminiscing. I completely forgot this memory, or that this thing even happened in the first place. But I remember being like 16, 17. I was at a entrepreneur teen conference, was specifically for teenagers who wanted to be entrepreneurs. And it was amazing. I loved it. It was so much fun. But there was a section they were talking about making content, and that was kind of before, this is obviously before TikTok and all that stuff. But this is really before creating content became a thing that your company truly needed. So we had this guy flown in from London, I think it was. He had the same name as me, actually, so shout out Jordan. And he talked about making content, video content online, and how to do that and blah blah. And I remember being in one of the private rooms for it, and there's a small group of people, and they were all, or one of the assignments we had to do was make our own video in front of everybody, and I decided I'm gonna go first. I was like, yeah, I can do this, it'll be no problem. I'd never really tried, because I had done it privately before, doing little mini vlogs, but I had never done it in front of people. I couldn't record it. I would turn on, it record my terrifying fear on my face. That's what it recorded. But I could, I just legitimately could not say, I didn't know what to say. I didn't have a topic to talk about. I was just hey, I'm Jordan, and it was so awkward and weird. And I was, let's just say, pretty embarrassed. I don't really get embarrassed, but that was probably one of the most embarrassing times of my life, because I was literally standing there and everyone was like, oh no, you got it. And I tried 4-5 times. I kid you not. And I could not do it. And finally everyone was like, ugh, and kind of, how they do that thing where they're trying to make it feel better, so they turn away, but then that really just made it worse. And yeah, so I was thinking back to that moment, little 16, 17-year-old me, in that conference room, thinking she's about to have the best, video out of everyone. She decided to go first because nobody else wanted to go. And, yeah, it just failed epically. And now it's funny to think about because I quite literally talk for a living. You know, like I have the podcast, I'm on social media all the time, I'm constantly doing videos for companies and for myself, and I'm always creating content. So it's funny to see how I was then versus how I am now, and really see how far I come, because I was being kind of hard on myself recently about, you know, what I posted and was the content good enough, and my videos could be better, the quality could be better, and I was just going on. But then I just went back to that thought of how I was at the conference and how I literally could not speak and finish a video because I was scared, and I failed in that moment. But I never let it get to me to the point where it's like, oh, well, I can't make content because of that one time when I was 16, right? I just kept going. And I always thought I was really scared of failure because I never let, and this, I'm going way back in the history to when I was like 14, but I would write all the time. Like, that's what I did. I wrote for fun. I'd write for hours and hours every single day, just writing a book that I never intended to publish. I just loved it so much. And my parents, would always say, oh, Jordan, you need to publish this. We'll help you publish it, blah, blah. And I would always say no, because I was like, no, I don't want it to be for anyone else. It's just for me, because I enjoyed it that much. And I didn't want it to go out into the world and people not like it, and then I feel like a failure. And of course I know now that that's what I want to do. I obviously have a book published and working on getting other books published, and I publish my content all the time because I literally actually write words that get published on real sites and get paid for it. So so I'm obviously gotten over that fear of failure there. But looking back into little 14-year-old me, I was terrified what people would think or what they would say if they saw my work. And if I had never gotten over that, I would never be where I am now. Like, if I would have just kept my writing as a hobby and let nobody see it, and nobody criticize it, and nobody have any opinions about it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be living on my own. I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do, travel where I want to travel, have an amazing podcast, and be as successful as I am, honestly. Like, I wouldn't be here. And I, for so long, let my fear of failure dictate what I did. And as soon as I let that go, as soon as I let go of the idea that I had to remain perfect in everyone's eyes, that I couldn't do any wrong, that I made no mistakes, that mistakes were bad, as soon as I let it all go, I instantly became more successful. Like, I'm not even joking, guys. This all, like, for me, happened in, like, a month time span of me realizing that if I'm going to be afraid of failure, I'm never going to be able to do what I want to do and be successful. And literally in that month, I did everything that's brought me to where I am today, where I feel and have noticed that I am the most happiest and most successful I have been yet. So that's something I just want you guys to think of. First off, what you were afraid of in the past, what you're afraid of now, and how to get over that. Because your fear is what's holding you back. Whether it's your fear of failure, of letting people down, of being criticized, it doesn't matter what it is. But your fear is stopping you from doing what you want to do. And I have so many people come up to me and ask me about, how I even got into owning my own company and doing my own things. And I can really just say that I just put the fear aside. Like, that fear of failure did not exist to me. It was not a thing. I let it go. It was gone. Fear wasn't in my vocabulary at that point because it couldn't be. And that's way easier said than done. So I'm not going to BS you guys and be like, oh, just pretend you don't have fear. You're going to be scared, okay? You're going to be terrified. But when approaching anything new, you can be as anxious and nervous as you want, but that's not going to, stop you from, or it's not going to deter you if you're motivated enough to do that certain thing that you want. So even if it's just going for an interview or applying to a new place so you can get an interview, and just kind of sucking up that fear of like, oh, well, what if that person doesn't respond back to me? Or, oh, what if they don't like me in the interview? Like, okay, and what happens if they don't? Okay, well, you don't get the job. All right. You know how many other companies are exactly or very similar to the one you just applied to? A lot. Go find one of those and ask those people to hire you, So, that's never, and then also, I will say this too, like, I've also had projects that I put out into the world and they just didn't get a lot of feedback. Like, not a lot of people were interested in it, but I was like, okay, well, that happened. I got so much experience, and now let's come back and do something better. So, an entrepreneurial mindset is basically that. It's not that you're not afraid of fear, it's that you know how to handle fear itself. You're not to the point where it stops you from doing something. Okay, it might make you hesitate, it might make you sweat a little bit, and it might make you uncomfortable. But honestly, that's where growth comes from. That's where growth develops. The most progress I have seen in my life is when I felt the most unsteady. Like, I was just, I'm not talking totally in my life, but just in my career, is when I felt like everything was like, oh, okay, is this the right move? Is usually when it was the right move later down the road when I see I've made a decent amount of money off of some project that I did. So, that's my little piece of inspiration, of advice. That you can be like little 15, 16, 17-year-old me, and then eventually get over that hump and do what you want to do now. So I really feel like when people tell me that they can't do something, it's just an excuse. You can do it, you just don't want to because you're afraid. And if I'm calling you out there, I'm sorry, but you need to hear it. And I might be a little harsher now, but I'm kind of hyped up because I was just on another podcast interview, so I was like, the energy was flowing. I was like, I'm just going to record another episode. So I'm doing 2 episodes today. Call me crazy, you can. I've actually been called crazy all my life. Also, holy crap, there's like guys like screaming outside my window. I don't know who they are, but they're just literally throwing wood planks and like I feel like they're yelling at each other, screaming at each other. So if you hear that, sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it. But but yeah. So failure. That's that. My little piece of advice. Now let's go on to success. And then we'll bring it all together. Okay? Success is whatever you want it to be. Society will try to tell you that it's, you're going to have a lot of money, you're going to have the girl, you're going to have the job, the dream job, you're going to have the car, you're going to have the cute little poodle puppy, and they tell you all these things. And if that's your idea of success, let that be your idea of success. Wow, I'm having trouble saying success so many times. We should have a count of how many times I'm saying success. But what I'm trying to say here is your idea of success is different than the person next to you. And it took me a really long time to figure this one out just because society really pushes that in your face. Like, you have to have the multi-million-dollar house. You have to have this. And they paint this picture of what you want success to be, okay? Like, you want success to be that. But, when they say that rich people aren't happy, I think there's kind of a caveat to that, because some people are. Some people who've worked really hard, made a lot of money, and are at that point where it looks like they have that rich lifestyle that everyone wants to aspire to, but they actually wanted that. So they're going to be content and they're going to be happy with what they're doing, right? Now, if you get somebody who didn't really want that deep down, they got super rich, had a lot of money, got that rich lifestyle, and then they were there and realized, oh, that isn't what I wanted, we shouldn't be blaming the money for that, okay? That's not the money's fault, okay? So when I hear that, oh, rich people aren't actually happy, or rich people this, like, okay, stop, take a seat, let's evaluate this a little bit more, because it really does depend on the person. Because I know really, really freaking rich people who are very, very, very happy, and I know rich people who aren't. But I also know poor people who aren't happy, and I know poor people who are. It really just depends on what your idea of success is. If you imagine just having, a really good relationship with your husband or wife, and you want to be a stay-at-home mom and have a bunch of kids, and you don't want to have a lot of money, but you want to have enough just to go on vacations every couple years or every year, that is success. If that is your dream and that's your goal, and that's something that you like and aspire to, that is success. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Okay? And it also is, imagine if you just didn't want kids and you wanted to have a CEO position in a really nice company that you personally like, and then eventually go start your own company, and you don't have a lot of money, but you have enough to do everything that you want. That can also be a definition of success. It all depends on how you see it and how you want it and what you imagine. So having that yacht in that basketball court in the back and, having all those things might be nice. You might not be opposed to them. But if they're not really what you want, then why are we defining that as success? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we all trying to be the same level of success? We don't have to. And the fact that that is what everyone thinks success should be is also wrong. Because I know I don't have to be a bajillionaire. Like, that's not something I need, right? It would be, okay, maybe it'd be nice. I'd take the money, right? Especially if I didn't have to work too hard for it. Sure. Hand it over, right? But that's not really my goal. I want to create content that inspires people. And I want to be motivated when I wake up in the morning to be able to do what I want and live the healthiest and best lifestyle and do it with people who love me around me and have a cute dog. I'm just going to say a cute little poodle, maybe not a poodle, but something similar to that. I think would be also really nice to add. But my idea of success is different. That is success to me. Okay, it's not a whole bunch of money, and it's not having a little amount of money. It's having a decent amount to cover my bills and do what I want to do, but also be happy and live the lifestyle I want. So, you have to define what success is to you. You can't let other people do it for you. As much as it might be easier, you can't do that. Now, if we're bringing those two things together, failure and success, you can't have one without the other. The times that I have quote-unquote failed at something has been the time right after that I saw the most success. So they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And the sooner you'll realize that, and the sooner you realize that even if you make a mistake or you fail at something, it just brings you closer to your idea of success. And so you shouldn't hate on it. You should take that as a learning opportunity and go forward into what you want to do. I also want to say to you guys that, and be just completely honest about this, but I have been struggling with not my idea of success per se, but that I'm not getting to my idea of success fast enough. Okay? And so I'm not exactly where I want to be. Not yet. I can see it. It's within touch, like just within my grasp. I can feel success right there. My idea of success is right there on the sledge, and I'm just a tad too short to reach it right now. Right now, okay? Eventually I'll figure out something to make me a little bit taller. But right now I'm reaching for this idea of success. And at least I'm trying for it, so let's give me kudos there, but I am struggling getting to that point because I feel like a lot of things have been going in my way to block me from getting there. And that's just life, right? There's going to be that up and down of, I'm successful right now, and then maybe a couple years down the road, I'm like not as successful, and I'm going to work my way back up again, So I know it's not permanent. I know I will eventually get there, and I know that it's within reach. But I'm still at that point where I know it can be better, and so it's bugging me that it's not. And for a few days, I was letting it get to me. I was like, oh, well, it's too hard to get to that point. It's going to take way longer than I thought. Why isn't this getting to me faster? Like, why can't I do this as fast as I wanted it to? Like, why is it blah, blah, blah. I had tons of excuses, okay, guys? And I was being pathetic and annoying. And then I was like, okay, well, what am I doing to get to this idea of success? I realized I was doing some things, and that was okay in the beginning. But I got to the point in my career that I needed to basically amp up my game and add something new to my world, to what I'm doing, to my process of getting to my idea of success. So I started brainstorming, right? I was getting outside of that little pity party I had for myself, because a lot of people get stuck there, and it's easy to get stuck there. Why wouldn't you want to just reminisce in your self-hatred and just complain about why things aren't playing out how you wanted them to, even though you're not doing anything about it? Okay? That's way easier than actually doing something to get what you want. Okay? But that's what I started doing. And so I was like, okay, let's really think about the steps I can take to get to what I want. And I wrote down a ton of ideas, and I started doing them. Like then, that day, like as soon as possible, just started doing what I wanted to do to get to where I wanted, right? That makes sense, guys. Follow along. And if you're having troubles, rewind it and re-listen, okay? Because this is important. We get stuck in that mindset of like, what was me? But as soon as we get out of that, that's when we can see the most growth, right? That's when we can see what the problem is and then fix it. We don't have to be stuck. Everyone thinks like something bad happens, so I'm stuck dealing with this. No, you don't have to. It's you who keeps you in that prison, not anyone else. So, but I will say, I have done it, and I probably will do it in the future. Okay? So it's human nature. It's natural. Don't be upset if that does happen, but make sure you start taking precautions, or make sure you start taking steps to get out of that kind of mindset, because that's not healthy. That's not going to make you a boss, right? That's not going to make you have a super successful company if you're constantly just, oh, my company's not, it's not where I want it to. Well, okay, then make it where you want it to. Don't just complain about it. Okay, but you're probably asking now, Jordan, how do I do this? And the guys are yelling out there louder, so I recommend not doing it where you can hear grown men screaming. But I would say start with spending at least 30 minutes a day figuring out your day, your week, whatever. Just give 30 minutes to devote to yourself to focus on what you need to focus on. So for me, I was waking up doing 30 minutes of organizing, planning, and during that time where I was kind of self-doubting, also figuring out where I wanted my company to go, and where I wanted my brand and my business to go. So I spent that time just writing down ideas, researching ideas, finding ways to be more successful, and finding out what I really wanted, what I didn't want. And so I just spent time then in that 30-minute window just doing what I needed to do. Okay. And then I also was really focused on the weeks that I didn't feel so particularly happy about where I was at. I focused on my schedule. I focused on my planner. I actually made a planner specifically for myself so I could plan out my days and my weeks and I could just see it laid out. And I also laid out my business plan of like what I wanted to do by a certain time. And even though that time was kind of flexible, I at least gave like, okay, January, I want to get this, and this done. Or December, I wanted to make sure that this was done, you know? So I kind of had an outline that I could see in person, like with my eyes, a physical copy of my plan and what I had. And when you see it on paper, it's definitely a little bit different. It's not, when it's not just in your head, it's more tangible. And so you think about it differently, if that makes sense. And then I wrote down like all the steps that I need to take to get to those goals and to actually accomplish them. And so it broke everything down to smaller pieces that I could personally deal with and actually finish and not feel too overwhelmed. So if you're having trouble with, you have ideas but you don't know where to start, this is a fantastic one to do with yourself. I will also say that you need to believe in the process. Okay, you have to make any of your goals reality, you have to put in the work. And you have to believe. And I try not to be too superstitious when it comes to things like this, but, manifestation has been a recent thing that has been trending, okay? And if you don't know what that is, it's basically you're kind of thinking up, or for example, I really want this job promotion, right? And you start manifesting in your mind, thinking about it, pray about it, all this stuff, and then it happens. And you're like, oh my gosh, like my manifestation came through. So that's kind of what I'm referring to here. And yes, we can say, oh, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. We can say that over and over again as much as we want. We might not ever get it. However, I think manifestation, if I can say it correctly, manifestation is a really cool way to go about working towards your goals, because obviously you can't just think about it and it happens all the time. But you can at least put your mind towards that by using manifestation, and then because you're so motivated for that goal, that you put in the work to get that. So I actually have a really cool example here. I was researching really, really hard on getting a new computer. I found the one that I wanted, but it was way outside my budget. I was considering all these options to get it cheaper and like, blah, blah, like I was doing whatever I could to try to get this computer, and then just budget-wise, it wasn't planning out for me, and so I was like, okay, kind of bummed, but I'm still like, my goal was still this computer. I was thinking about this computer all the time because it would help me so much in my business. So I want it. I'm thinking about it all the time, right? And then my computer that I used to work on crashed, stopped working. It had nothing, like it literally just turned off and never turned back on again. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I can go and get this, computer I don't really want and spend my money, spend less money on that, but still spend money on it. Or I can just suck it up, get the computer that I really want, and be happy and then have that forever. Okay? So, I was in the middle of still making this decision. And when I finally made the decision to, okay, I'm just going to nail it down. I'm buying that new computer. I don't care. I'm going to suffer a little bit in payments, and I just need to get it, right? As soon as I made that conscious shift that this is what I had to have, the very next day, I get an order from a client that I'd worked with previously, like 3 months before, but reached out to me out of the blue. and said, I have a project for you. Can you do this? And it was the exact same price as my computer. Let that sink in, because I was like, what? Are you kidding? Like, of course, obviously I'm going to take this gig. It's a lot of money, but at the same time, I was like, this is the same exact amount as the computer I wanted. So I did the order for her. I'm able to get my computer. And obviously I'm in love with my computer now. I use it for literally everything. I'm on it way too much. But it was just crazy. Like, I had been thinking about it for months. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I put a lot of thought into my big purchases, so I don't just buy something to buy something, or buy something because whatever. Like, I actually have a reason for it, and I didn't want to spend that much money on it, so people could say that I manifested this opportunity to be able to get a job that was the exact same price as my computer, or you can call that divine intervention. I don't know. Either way, I put so much thought into it that it felt like a manifestation, not gonna lie. But I really just think it comes down to your brain and what you're thinking about. It's just, honestly, it was the same thing when I was getting into a relationship. I was dealing with kind of crappy friendships and relationships and just dating, and I didn't like it, and I had stopped, and I regrouped, and I said, well, I'm only going to focus on the positive ones, and the positive friendships, the positive relationships, and I'm going to stick with that. And as soon as I didn't go searching for it, but I just kind of like had that in my head, like, okay, positive, people who are going to bring better into my life and not bringing toxicity. And as soon as I started doing that, more positive people came into my life. Actually, this RV is a great example. I'm moving into an RV soon. I just have it now. But me and my boyfriend were looking for an RV, and we had it in the back of our heads. We kept talking about it, and that's what we wanted. And as soon as we realized what we wanted, it just fell in our laps. My uncle was getting rid of his RV, and he said he'd give us a good price for it. And it literally just worked out, because looking back, we probably couldn't have really afforded anything that we really, really wanted, because I wanted a much nicer one. But it turned out we get the nicer one, and we get the, good price for it that was in our budget, and we get that all in one as soon as we started thinking about the RV. Like, we were like, okay, it's literally the week we decided that we wanted an RV, that came into our lives. But we had been thinking about it for a couple months, right? That was on our minds. We were thinking about it, manifesting it, right? And, but it was like, as soon as every time I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, it fell into my lap. And I know that doesn't happen to everything, and I know that doesn't happen to everyone. But just, I have so many more examples I could give you, but I'm literally not, because I'm not trying to bore you to half to death, But, just even having those few instances in my life has really proven that I have to keep my mind open to stuff like that. I have to just, I may or may not believe in manifestation itself, but I think that it's a really cool idea to help motivate people to keep their eye on what they want, and eventually they will be rewarded with it through either hard work or from just out, without control circumstances. You get what I'm saying, guys. I'm getting a little brain dead here because I've been doing a lot today, so bear with me. But I just really had this on my mind, and I needed to get it off it as soon as possible, because I feel like so many people can benefit from kind of just what I'm saying of, think you gotta really just be careful with your mindset. You gotta be careful what you bring into your life, what you take out of your life, and how you view everything. And I wish we could just not have to worry about it and be like, okay, whatever, and just live our lives however. But I think as soon as you start noticing that you're focusing on what you want, and you're not afraid to fail, you're not necessarily afraid to fail, but you're okay if you fail because you can do something else, I think as soon as you kind of get that mindset that, okay, everything will work out, I think you are on much better track than the average Joe sitting next to you. Because I went along with it. I'm just going to do whatever. Like, I don't care. And I didn't have as much as I do now. And and you also be super appreciative of it. So keep that in mind. Gratitude is also very important. Okay. Make sure you appreciate what you do have and what has come your way. Because I noticed when I started being more open and, you know, I might have been complaining to myself that my company wasn't where I wanted it to be, but the fact that I even have a company that is mine and that I started being as young as I am is amazing. So I need to be so thankful that I was even able to do that in the first place, and that I had enough resources and time and energy to be able to get into doing what I am now. So, long story short, for success, you definitely have to define what that is to you. And then once you do, get the right mindset to be able to accomplish that. Because without the proper mindset, I promise you, you will not reach your level of success that you want. You will not. It just won't happen. Maybe by very, very small coincidence, the 0.1% that might happen to. But if you're not manifesting, if you're not, praying, if you're not thinking about it, I think it'll be much harder to accomplish. I can tell you that for sure. So, with all that said, guys, oh my gosh, I am so tired from speaking. I don't know how people talk all day and not get tired, because I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. But I wanted to just say, I'm so thankful for all of you guys who are listening to this podcast, and all of my links and everything will be in the bottom. Like I said, have so much coming, so if you want any updates on, what's going to be posted and what's coming out, follow my Instagram, because that's where mostly everything will be. And yeah, I'm literally just here to make you guys better people. So it's this is the whole reason of this podcast. And I wanted to share what knowledge I have and what, all of my amazing business friends and everyone that I know who can benefit you is here to benefit you. I do this for you guys. And also because I love talking and I love being able to hear everyone's opinions afterwards. And y'all are so sweet. I've already got a few messages just from my first trailer mini episode to the podcast. So just the fact that you guys are even commenting back and listening, and it just makes my day. It makes me so happy. And okay, I'm gonna not go cry by myself. No. Alrighty, I will let you guys go, and I hope you have an amazing, beautiful day. Bye bye. Make sure you keep your mindset clean, guys. Manifest that shit.